firstly understand the micro themes, then read the significant part from the Lakshmikanth, and after that you have to solve the questions with respect to that particular micro theme. Now, from where do you solve the same? This is why we have the Objectives Polity by Laxmikanth himself. Read Lakshmikanth, do the Objective Polity, make sure you have a content clarity regarding the same. After that, you do our dominant essays. So first of all, as I always do in the orientation, as all of you know, Laxmikanth, polity is one of the most important areas, right? When you compare UPSC Prelims, close to 15 to 16 questions come every year. So you have to be Laxmikanth, or the polity is the most important book out there, right? Laxmikanth is usually called the Bible of polity. So therefore, Laxmikanth is the source. Now, second most important question is, usually all our mentors, we say that you have to read the 11th standard NCERT, right? Making of the Constitution, and the 12th standard NCERT, which is the political theory. Now, should you read the same? Is it really important? In my opinion, no. Okay. For the fact that all the questions which have ever came in UPSC, apart from certain questions such as, let's say, the relation between Marxism and Karl Marx and Gandhi, certain questions, hardly 2 to 3 questions, could not be solved using Laxmikanth. Apart from that, all the other questions can be solved using Laxmikanth. Okay. So if you have already read Making of the Constitution of the 11th standard and the 12th standard political theory, you can revise the same. But if you have not read Making of the Constitution and also the 12th standard NCERT, you don't need to start again. Okay? You can completely stick on to one book, which is Laxmikanth for the static portions. And current affairs is next one other important thing you have to focus on. Okay? When you actually look into the PYQs, you will understand that most of the questions are inspired from the current affairs. Okay? So Laxmikanth won't suffice. Other than Laxmikanth, you have to focus on the current affairs as well. Okay. So one important thing that I want to say here is that on what basis in this session I'll be saying that these are less important areas and these are the areas to skip. It is on the foundation philosophy that UPSC does not directly take questions from the Laxmikanth. Okay. The source of the questions of UPSC is not Laxmikanth. Then what is the source of the questions? The questions is from the Bare Act or from the Constitution. Okay. So that is why, if you look at the PYQs, you won't see the Laxmikanth inspired topics in the UPSC Prelims. Let's say, for example, parliamentary group. This is not something there in the Constitution, right? So we don't find that. Parliamentary forum, it's there in Laxmikanth, we don't find that. Cabinet committees, it's not there in Constitution, therefore we don't find that. So these are some of the areas which are only there in the Laxmikanth. And that is the reason why we don't find it in the UPSC Prelims. So the foundation philosophy of our session, we'll be skipping all those areas, or we'll be giving less importance to all those areas which are there in the which is only there in the Laxmikanth, but is not there in the Constitution. Okay. We don't need to give too much importance regarding that, because the source of the questions is not Laxmikanth. The source of the questions is Constitution and the Bare Act. Okay, everyone? This is one important thing that you have to always focus. When only a particular thing is only there in Laxmikanth, you won't find it in UPSC Prelims. Okay? So what are the questions which mostly come from the current affairs? So what are the topics? The first one is the Supreme Court judgments. Okay. Let's say Supreme Court has given any new judgment with respect to Article 21 or Article 19. Let's say, for example, right to privacy, the right to marry. You have to focus on that. And in 2021, there was a Supreme Court judgment with respect to the Hindu rights. The property rights with respect to women, the Devaga and all that. That also was inspired. UPSC had given a current affairs question. MP lads, the Member of Parliament lads, was basically suspended during the time of COVID. And for that reason, in 2021, we had an MP lads question. So mostly the questions are current affairs inspired. So you have to look into all the Supreme Court judgments. Second one, the appointments and elections. Especially with respect to the presidential questions, there were 3 questions with respect to the presidential elections. If you carefully analyze regarding the same, all the questions came after the president was elected. Okay. So Abdul Kalam was elected on 2003, and then the question came on 2004. Our previous president got elected in 2018, Ramnath Kovind, and the question came in 2018. The current president got elected in, I guess, 2022 or 2023, and the question came on the subsequent year. Okay. So when any senior appointments come or when any election take place, you have to look into that. And finally, the most important thing is the political events. Whenever there is any new scheme introduced, whenever any, let's say, statutory body comes into news, for example, CBI, or any other political news happen, let's say anti-defection law, there is a significant controversy regarding anti-defection law, then you have to focus on that. Okay. So for example, there was this Hadia story, right? Or all of you must have known the same. The Hadia story, and Supreme Court said that right to marry is a fundamental right. Therefore, the question came with respect to the Hadia case. Here you can see that Abdul Kalam was elected on 2002. Then the question came in 2003. Pranab Mukherjee Ramnath Kovind got elected in 2017. So in 2018, you have the presidential question. And our current president got elected in 2022. And the two questions came with respect to the presidential election in 2023. So mostly when the elections, appointments, Supreme Court judgments all take place, you have to focus on that more. And also with respect to the political events, for example, all of you know that Mahua Moitra was expelled from the parliament, right? And it was based on a report of the ethics committee. On the basis of that, we had the question of ethics committee. So whenever any political event comes, which is very significant, you have to focus more on that. Close to, let me tell you, close to 20, 25% or even 30% of the questions are inspired from the current affairs. Okay. So Lakshmikanth is not, polity is not a static area. A lot of questions are inspired from the current affairs only. Okay. Now, how should we focus on the current affairs? So let me tell you, you have to focus on one monthly magazine, our Samasha Manthan. If you have the time, you can watch the Samasha Manthan videos. But let me tell you, that won't suffice. Okay. You need to do the Dominate Test series. So as you know, we have 50 questions on a daily basis. Out of that, 10 questions will be current affairs. So in case of polity, we have 10 50 questions and we have an advanced test. And we also have one current affairs test on the 16th of January. So here we'll be doing 50 questions, here 10, probably close to 140 current affairs questions we'll be doing with respect to polity. So only one monthly magazine plus our current affairs will suffice for the polity current affairs. Okay, everyone? Now, what is the process? How should you study the polity? As I always tell you, you don't need to do questions with respect to all the topics out there. Okay. You only need to practice a significant number of questions. I'm not talking about the test series here. I'm talking about the other questions here. You need to do a significant number of questions only when the topic is conceptual in nature. For example, economy. Economy is a very conceptual topic, right? For example, inflation, money and banking. This is something very conceptual. External sector, foreign exchange. You have to practice a lot of questions. In geography, you have the climatology. This is something you have to practice, right? You have to do a number of questions to make sure that you have the content clarity. Now, polity is also one such topic which requires in-depth knowledge and requires conceptual clarity. So what is the process here? First of all, you have to understand the micro themes, which are the important areas to focus. Let's say citizenship pay, only one question came in the last 15 years. State reorganization pay, only one question, that is in the 2025, one question came. Making of the constitution, only one question came in 2024. So firstly, you have to understand which are the important micro themes out there, right? And you have to focus more on that. And which are the less important areas? You can read it for the first time, but when you revise it for the second time, you don't need to read it once again, right? Second process is, after you understand the micro themes, then you read the particular Lakshmikanth, the book regarding the same. And if it's a significant micro theme, then what do you need to do? You need to solve n number of questions regarding the same. So this is how the process. Firstly, understand the micro themes, then read the significant part from the Lakshmikanth, and after that, you have to solve the questions with respect to that particular micro theme. Now, from where do you solve the same? This is why we have the objectives polity by Laxmikanth himself, right? So what do you need to do? These are the important micro themes regarding Lakshmikanth. So probably till preamble, okay. Till preamble, you can see here close to 21, 20, judiciary pay 19. All these are the important micro themes of polity. So till preamble, you can attend the questions from the objectives polity. When you attend the question, you can attend close to 20-30 questions for every topic. Okay. So if your accuracy is less than 50%, let's say you attempted 20 questions and only 9 you got correct. What does it mean? That you don't know much regarding the topic. Therefore, you need to completely revise the topic. But let's say if your accuracy is close to 70% or even 80%, then what do you need to do? You don't need to revise the whole topic. Rather, you just need to revise that particular fact which you made it incorrect. Okay? So after reading the micro theme, you need to test yourself. So download the objective polity. I will share it in the group as well. So do a couple of questions, probably 20 to 30 questions. If your accuracy is very less than 50%, read the whole topic once again. If your accuracy is close to 80 to 90%, then you just need to read the incorrect fact. Okay? This will be the process on how we will cover the micro theme. Now the important question here is, should you attend the question with respect to state reorganization? Should you attend the question with respect to citizenship, wherein only one question has come in the previous years? No. If at all it's an important micro theme only, then you need to test yourself. If it's not a micro theme wherein only one question comes, you can completely ignore the questions. You don't need to do the questions. Okay? Now here is the process. Read Lakshmikanth, do the objective polity, make sure you have a content clarity regarding the same. After that, you do our dominate essays. Okay? Now, how to read the Lakshmikanth chapter wise? So I want all of you to take your Lakshmikanth. So we will be marking all the important areas here, starting from chapter 1. Okay. I hope all of you have read Lakshmikanth. If you have not read Lakshmikanth, let me tell you, you should not be starting from the historical background or making of the constitution. Okay. You need to first of all start with the salient features of the constitution, reading preamble, fundamental rights, DPSP and all the other. And when you read modern history, okay, it's better to read the making of the constitution along with modern history. If you have not read the same. ठीक है, लेकिन अभी तो टाइम नहीं है हमारे पास to finish modern history then to start polity. So if you're starting for the first time, don't start from the front page. Read the preamble, read the salient features and everything. And after completing the same, after completing the fundamental duties, you can then go to making of the constitution. Because making of the constitution is something very dry. If you directly go and read it, it will become very boring. Okay. But here, we'll be starting with making of the constitution or the historical background, because let's go chronologically only. Okay. So starting with chapter 1, you know that this is the most important topic in modern history. Okay. Whatever questions come here, we don't tag it here in terms of polity, we tag it for modern history. So as you can see here, close to 21 questions came in the last 15 years with respect to modern history here. So you have to read in detail, starting from the Regulating Act of 1773 to the Indian Independence Act of 1947. You have to read it thoroughly. But should everything be given equal importance? No. I'll tell you how you have to do it. So you can see here, mostly the questions are from the acts, but you should not be restricting yourself to the information given in Lakshmikanth only. You should be reading the spectrum wala information as well. Okay. Even in our exam, which comes on the 50th, on the January 5, you should have read the acts from spectrum as well. So because we have taken certain facts from the spectrum as well. Okay. So additional reading is required. You have to read spectrum as well. Most of the questions are very factual, very direct. So these are the areas to focus, as you can see here. Regulating Act by UPSC have never asked a question. Charter Act of 1873, 1893 UPSC have asked. 1813 by 2 question has come. 1833 by 2 question have come. The most important thing is the Government of India Acts. Okay. 6 questions have come from the Government of India Act 1919 and 3 questions have come from the Government of India Act of 1935. So these are the most important areas. Now, how should you read it? Is the most important question here, right? When you read the same, you need to have a proper chronology in mind. Okay. If you don't have a proper chronology in mind, that means that you have not read the same properly. Okay. So first of all, start with the Regulating Act, then go in a chronological manner, go with the bits in the Act, then followed by the Charter Act of 1813, 1833, then the Charter Act of 1853, then the Councils Act. You go chronologically. After you have read till the Government of India Act 1935, then what do you need to do? You need to do an active recall. Now, how do you active recall? Let's say, for example, you take a particular topic, executive council members, then you try to recall what happened in each of the acts. Let's say, for example, regulating act pay, there were 4 members in the executive council, right? 4 plus 1. Then in the pits in the act, it got reduced to 3. Pits in the act, it got reduced to 3. Again, in the Charter Act of 1833, again, 4 members were there. So there was 3 previously, plus a law member came, who was Macaulay. Then again 4 members came. So this is the way you have to study. After completely going through the same, you try to recall with respect to each and every important topic. Let's say, for example, diarchy pay. The diarchy was introduced in the province in 1919, right? In the 1935 Government of India Act, the diarchy was introduced in the center. Diarchy was introduced in the center and got abolished in the provinces. Right? What about bicameralism? Bicameralism got introduced in the center in 1919 and got introduced in the province in 1935. So this is the way you have to recall. And what about separate electorates? In 1909, councils, Muslims were awarded. After which, in 1919, Christians, Anglo-Indians, and everyone was allotted. In 1932, Ramsey Award, depressed classes were awarded. But in 1935, the depressed classes were ignored. But in 1935, women, Christians, Europeans were awarded. So after reading completely, you need to actively recall what happened in each of the time. Let's say, what about budget? This act pay, they were given the power to discuss on the budget. In this act, they were given the power to vote on the budget. This is how you have to do active recall. Okay? So let's say, for example, revise according to the chronology. Let's say I have given here an example with respect to separate electorates. 1909 pay Muslims, 1919 Muslim 6 Indian Christians, 1932 pay Ramsey MacDonald Award given to depressed classes, 1935 it was allotted to women and all the other people out there. So this is the way you have to frame a chronology in mind. If you read it in a very factual manner, then you're not going to remember anything, let me tell you. Rather, you have to form a mind map in mind. What happened to each of the provinces out there? Each of the, not the province, each of the provisions out there. Okay. So these are the important issues. Mostly focus on the Government of India Act of 1919 and the Government of India Act of 1935. Okay. Now, second page, coming on to the making of the Constitution. So in the last 15 years, only a single question was there. It's not an important micro theme. We don't have to do questions with respect to making of the Constitution. Okay. So only a single question you can see here, right? State reorganization, only a single question. That too, which came in 2024. Who was the provincial president of the Central Assembly, Rajendra Prasad? This was the only question. So not an important thing. But what can you read? You can read about the composition and working of the Constituent Assembly, objective resolution, adoption of different symbols, and major committees and drafting committees. But when you revise for the second time, should you focus on this chapter? No. Okay. We know that UPSC has this unpredictability, right? So just to be on the safe side, you can read it a bit for the upcoming test, but you don't have to revise it when you start the revision on from March 16. Okay. Objective resolution and all these areas also you can focus a bit. Now, what are the areas to skip? First of all, the Hindi text of the Constitution, you can completely ignore. Criticism of the Constituent Assembly, you can completely ignore. Experts Committee of the Congress, you can completely ignore. And enactment of the, these 3 areas you can completely ignore. Enactment of the Constitution, it's already there in the preamble. That is why I have given it here. Okay. So these 4 areas you can completely ignore for the fact that this is only given in the Lakshmikanth. It's not available in the Constitution. Okay. So we can ignore all these areas. Now, moving to chapter 3, concept of the Constitution. Now, this is not there in the previous Lakshmikanth. It has been added in the 2024 or the 2025 edition. You don't need to dive very deeper with respect to this chapter. Okay. just need to have a very basic understanding regarding the difference between what is a constitution and what is a constitutionalism and a constitution government. Okay, you don't have to have very detailed knowledge, but if you're reading Lakshmikanth for the first time, this is the chapter that you need to start. Okay, so what do you need to do? You can just go through what are the meaning, functions, and everything, just to have a basic understanding regarding the same, understanding the basic concepts. I mean, question has come. Okay, constitutional government is a definition of constitutional government, what it is, chief purpose of the constitution. It was also there in the previous Lakshmikanth as well, but still, just have a basic understanding regarding what is constitution. That's it. These are the areas you can see. First of all, there are certain professors, there are certain important people who have critiqued about what a constitution is, right? In Lakshmikanth, Gilchrist, Gettel, and so many other people they have given, you can completely ignore all the personalities out there. Functions of the constitution is something you can completely ignore. And the qualities of the constitution, this is also something we only find in the Lakshmikanth, right? It will be not there in the constitution. So this is also something you can completely ignore. Okay? Now moving on to the silent features, this is where the game starts. From here, significant number of questions have come. Silent features, baby. As you can see here, you need to have a clear-cut idea regarding all the silent features out there. Be it the written constitution till the adult franchise, have a clear-cut clarity and dive deeper with respect to what is the topic here. Let's say what do you mean by sovereignty? What do you mean by single citizenship? What do you mean by preventive detention? So dive deeper with respect to all these topics. You can probably ChatGPT as well. Okay. So here, but one thing you can ignore is criticism of the constitution. It's mostly a mains topic, and prelims pay UPSC have never asked any criticism of the constitution. Okay. Let's say Ivor Jennings has said this thing. Casey Ware has said this thing. This is one area that UPSC have never explored. So you can ignore all these areas. Okay? This is mostly with respect to the mains topic. Criticism of the constitution. Now next topic, going to the preamble. You can go to the preamble. Preamble is a significant topic. As I said, 4 questions were asked in the last 15 years. You can see here 4 questions. Preamble is mostly conceptual and also static in nature. Okay. So 4 questions were asked, as you can see here. This is mostly a static question. 26 January 50 pay, what was India? Preamble to the constitution is a part. Other question, not embodied in the preamble, and also mind of the makers. So mostly a mix of static and also conceptual topic. So you have to read in detail each and every word of preamble. That is important here. What do you mean by liberty? What do you mean by republic? What do you mean by sovereignty? What do you mean by secular? Dive very deep with respect to the each and every word of preamble. I'll give you an example here. Let's say, for example, in this question as well, you can see here, UPSC have asked about the difference between law and liberty. If you don't clear-cut know what liberty is, you won't get this question. Which one of the following factors constitute the best safeguard of liberty? One of the implications of equality in the society is the absence of. So these are questions from the preamble. These are very conceptual questions from the preamble. So you have to, as I said before, you have to dive deeper with respect to each and every word in the preamble. Okay. So what do you need to do? You can just use any AI tools, for example, ChatGPT. So dive deeper with respect to each and every word. As you can see here, when we hear about the word republic, usually we just study that the head of the state is just elected, right? Why is India a republic? We usually say that head of the state is elected, that is the president is elected. And Britain it's a constitutional monarch for the fact that there, the queen or the king is there. But is it the only angle with respect to republic? No. It also means that the public offices cannot be held on lineage. The public offices cannot be held on the basis of religion. The public offices cannot be held on the basis of caste. The public offices are basically open to all, and also there is an absence of privileges. This is what the word republic means. So that is why I'm saying you have to dive deeper. What is liberty? What is justice? All the other topics mentioned in the preamble, just dive deeper. Just use ChatGPT or something. Okay. Now, with respect to unionized territory, not a very significant topic. As you can see here, only one question have come, and that too was asked in 2025, right? As you can see here, this was the question, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland and Tripura. So only one question came. In my opinion, this is also mostly a mains topic, right? So mostly in the post-Indian consolidation in GS1, we find these type of questions. As you can see here, assess the main administrative issues and cultural programs in the integration of Indian princely states. The political administration reorganization of the states and territories had been an ongoing continuous process. So mostly the questions are taken from the mains from this area. But Firbi, in my opinion, since 2025 pe UPSC have already asked one question, let's not take any risk here. You can read this chapter, and when you revise the same also, you can revise what are which are the states, in which year was all the state formed, what was the constitution amendment with respect to the same. Read that, have an idea regarding the history of almost all the states out there. Okay? Because the fact that 2025 pe UPSC have already asked a question. Okay? Now coming on to citizenship. Now citizenship pe, as I said before, only a single question have come. Okay? Therefore, it's not an important topic. You can read it abhi for the exam, but when you revise for the second time, you can completely ignore it. Now this was the only question here. With reference to India, consider the following statements: one citizenship, one domicile, head of the state, and this was something very simple as well, in my opinion. Okay. So what are the areas to focus? What is the concept of single citizenship? How do we acquire? How do we lose the citizenship? And the difference between overseas cardholder of India and a citizen. These are the four areas you have to focus on. Okay? Single citizenship, the idea of single citizenship. How do we acquire citizenship? How do we lose the same? And what is the difference between overseas cardholder and an Indian citizen? Now, what are the areas to ignore? First of all, you have to completely ignore these areas. So, Article 5 to 10 deals with the old provisions during the partition period. This is something you have to completely ignore. Article 5 to 10 you have to completely ignore. Also ignore all these areas. A person born in India after 1950 but before July 1987. This was the previous provision, right? So we had the Citizenship Amendment Act in subsecutive years, right? 2003 pe we had the Citizenship Amendment Act. In ABI 2021 pe we had the Citizenship Amendment Act. So only the latest provision is something we require, right? So the story of 2060, the story of 1987, this is something that you can completely ignore. Abhi kya current pe provision hai? Only this is required for you. Okay. So completely skip Article 5 to 10 and all the old provisions as well. Okay. Read only the latest provisions of the current Citizenship Amendment Act. So what are the areas? First of all, there is no more important areas here, but less important: acquisition laws, single citizenship and the difference. Areas to skip: constitutional provisions from 5 to 10 and the previous Citizenship Amendment Acts and the guidelines you can completely ignore for the fact that only one question has come in the last 15 years. Okay? Now, moving on to the most important topic here, which is the fundamental rights. Okay? Each and every word given in Lakshmikanth is important here. There is no single word to skip, but let me tell you, there is one less important area that I'll tell you, but each and every word is important here. As you can see here, fundamental rights and duties where 20 question has come. So therefore, after Parliament, this is the most important area. Okay. So you need to have a clear-cut idea regarding all the articles out there. You have to dive deeper with respect to Lakshmikanth, and the Lakshmikanth knowledge mostly suffices. Okay. So there is a mix of factual and also conceptual questions here. These are all the factual questions with respect to different articles: privacy, right to property, right to privacy, all the other different things, right to marry. These are all Supreme Court guidelines. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. You need to read at least the 10 most important or the 20 most important judgments of 2020, 2025 and also 2026 as well. And if UPSC mentions about any fundamental right there, UPSC will ask about the same. Okay. And you have a mix of conceptual questions as well. Rights versus states, due process, rule of law, defines the same state, all these. Now let me tell you, with respect to fundamental rights, our flash notes is one of the best out there. Okay. So after reading Lakshmikanth, you can refer to our flash notes as well, for the fact that this is the most important topic. 21 questions have come in the last 15 years. That's like almost 2 questions on an every prelims, right? So therefore, even if you read additionally for it, there's no significant loss of time. So you need to refer to the flash notes. It's a beautiful note. I'm very proud of it. Natural rights, human rights, legal rights, constitution. We have given here other additional information as well. As you can see here, the type of rights we have given. We have given the relations between all the other different areas. Let's say rights versus duties, the correlation table. What is the relation between FR and FT, FR and DPSP, DPSP and fundamental duties? So we have given this correlation. It's a very beautiful note. So after reading Lakshmikanth, you can refer to the X factor as well. Okay. For this topic, we have given about the rights and duties. We have given about the international human rights dog status, be it everything we have provided here. You have to refer to Supreme Court judgments. As I said, love jihad, right to marry came. Puttaswamy judgment, right to privacy came. So these are the most important areas to focus. As you can see here, Article 19 pay, Article 14 right to equality pay, 3 questions have come. But the most important is from the right to freedom and right to life and liberty, Article 21 as well. 6 questions has come. Right against exploitation, only 1 question. Freedom of religion pay, no question has ever come. Cultural and education rights, no question has ever come. Right to constitutional remedies, Article 32 pay, single question have come. And Article 33 to 35 pay also, 2 questions have come. So I'm not saying that you should be reading everything with equal importance here. Rather, you can focus more on Article 19, right to equality and also right to freedom. Okay. It should be revised in the second or even the third time as well, all the fundamental rights. But when you reach right to equality and right to freedom, probably you can give more emphasis on that, because significant number of questions have come from these areas. Okay. So the more important areas, as I said, these are the more important areas. The less important would be the martial laws. UPSC have never asked a question. Exemptions to the fundamental rights. This is something also you can focus. And also cultural and education rights and also right to religion. UPSC have never asked a question. So therefore, I would say can be included in the list of less important. Okay. But fundamental rights in itself is very important. So I don't want you to read, right to religion and cultural and education rights with less importance. You can read, even in your third revision, you can read the same. Okay. So this is one area. If possible, you need to give less importance regarding the martial law. And you don't need to by heart all the 36 rights given in right to life and liberty. Okay. You just need to have an idea regarding the same. It's not possible for you to revise the whole thing, to memorize the whole thing. Just go through the same. But when you revise for the second time, you don't need to by heart or anything. And also the criticism of fundamental rights. It's only there in Lakshmikanth. It's not there in the Constitution. Therefore, you have to ignore the same. Okay. Now, with respect to DPSP as well, each and every word is important here, for the fact that, as you can see here, 12 questions have come in the last 15 years with respect to DPSP as well. So read very detailed, hardly 3 to 4 pages are there. It does not matter, right? So conceptual questions you can see here. All these are conceptual questions. Factual questions are also there. Separation of judiciary, the constitution, promotion of international peace and security. Now, this is one area that you will at times feel a bit of confusion, right? There are certain provisions in DPSP and fundamental rights which you find a bit similar. So have a clarity regarding the same. For example, conservation of art probably come in DPSP. Environment pay, there are provisions both in fundamental duties and also fundamental rights. So there are certain provisions which you will find certain confusions. So have a clarity on all the DPSPs out there and also the fundamental duties as well. Okay. Less important areas. First of all, the implementations of DPSPs, sanctions behind DPSPs, directives outside Part 4, utility of directive principles, criticisms of directive principles. Why am I saying it less important? For the fact that it's only there in Lakshmikanth, it's not there in the Constitution. I don't have to repeat myself every time, right? So Always remember that questions are taken from the constitution and not from Lakshmikanth. Okay? Fundamental duties पे, I don't have to say more. You have to read all the 10 fundamental duties out there. That's it. But one thing you have to know, is there in Lakshmikanth? Sorry, is it there in the constitution? Verma committee and Soren Singh committee reports, will you find it in the constitution? Will you find this in the constitution? Anyone? I have realized that I have not asked you a single question, right? No, it's not there in the constitution, right? So therefore, you can completely ignore the same. Okay. Critics of fundamental duties, Arda Soren Singh committee, Verma committee recommendations, it's not there in constitution, therefore ignore the same. Now, moving on to chapter 11, amendment of the constitution. Very, very important, as you can see here. 7 questions have come in the last 15 years. Now, what are the important areas to focus? First of all, the amendment process. Which are the areas which require simple majority? For example, Article 2 and 3. And what are the areas which require special majority? What are the areas which require special majority with half of the rectification of the states? And the amendment procedures as well. Kitna chahiye for everything. For example, president ke liye kitna chahiye? To change the fundamental rights, kitna chahiye? Is it half of rectification chahiye or sirf special majority chahiye? So you need to have a clarity regarding all this. What amendment procedure is required for each and every process, right? So amendment process pe you can see here, 2 questions have come, 3 questions have come, and also you need to have clear-cut idea regarding the important amendments. Let's say Constitutional Amendment 1, the 9th schedule was introduced, and UPSC asked this. Who was the Prime Minister at that time? Because it was introduced in 1951, obviously the answer would be Jawaharlal Nehru, right? So Constitutional Amendment 1, 6, then 21, then 42, 44. Most of the important amendments out there, most of the amendments which are there given in the Lakshmikanth are all very important. Therefore, you need to have a clear-cut idea on which provision was altered in which of the amendments and the defection came in which one. Let's say, for example, beat any other. Let's say Council of Ministers got restricted to 15% of Lok Sabha. It was in the 91st Amendment. So all the important amendments out there, you need to have a clarity. 42p, they have asked to overcome the judicial interpretation. 42nd, they have asked. 44th Amendment also they have asked. Okay? So the amendment process and also the important amendments are the most important areas here. Right? This is 91st Amendment. And here, this is also 91st Amendment. Less important area, criticism of the amendment procedure for the fact that it's only there in Lakshmikanth. Now, basic structure, let me ask you, is basic structure there in the constitution? Base structure is a judicial innovation, right? So obviously, it will not be available in the constitution. So do you think UPSC will take inspiration from basic structure? Possibly not, right? Because it's not there in the constitution. So only one question came in 2020. The Constitution of India defines its basic structure in terms of federalism, secularism, fundamental rights and democracy. Because of the fact that basic structure is not there in Constitution, obviously the first question is wrong here. Now, should you read all this? Which all basic structure came in which all judgments? Definitely no. Okay. Definitely no. You cannot memorize all the 22 cases and what all basic structure doctrines, basic structure was, what all elements was added into the basic structure. It's not possible for you to revise, possible for you to do. Possibly the Keshavanda Bharati judgment you can read. What are the 9 important things? Minerva Mill case you can read. Then the most important would be Indira Sawhney case, rule of law. Quixote Colohan, most important here. SR Bommai, IR Kohler case. Okay. Sirf itna kafi hai. Do not memorize the whole 22 judgments here. Not at all relevant. Only go through a bit regarding the important judgments only. Okay. Now, moving to chapter 13 here. First of all, regarding the parliamentary system, not very significant. You just need to have a basic idea regarding what parliamentary system is. That's it. Okay. So here, the features of the parliament the features of the presidential system, merits of the parliamentary system, demerits of the parliamentary system. These are only available in Lakshmikanth, right? It's not available in the constitution. Therefore, UPSC have never asked a question regarding the same, but Firbi, just to have an idea regarding the same, you can go through it. Okay. Difference between the parliamentary and the presidential system also, you need to focus on here. But never a question has come. Now, moving on to federalism or the federal system, 4 questions have come in the last 15 years. You can see here, 4 questions have come from federalism. And the questions were, which among the following in Indian polity is an essential feature of federalism? Which one of the following is not a feature of federalism? 2 more questions are there. You need to read this. Okay. 4 questions have come. So therefore, hardly 3 to 4 pages are there in this chapter. So you need to read dual polity, written constitution, strong center, states not indestructible. You have to read through it. Okay. So you have to have a difference between what constitutes a federal government and also what constitutes a unitary government as well. This is an important topic. What are the areas to skip? Critical evaluation of the federal system. You can completely ignore what is said by different personalities out there. Also here also you can see what is said by Granville Austin, Ambedkar ne kya kaha. These are areas you can completely ignore. Now moving on to the central government. Okay. So does anyone have any doubts with respect to all these topics that we have discussed? Gautam, Nandini, Ankush, Abhishek, Bhagyashree. Saurabh, anyone? Okay, good. So moving on to the next topic here, central government. Now let me tell you, I'm going to take in a chronological manner, right? But when you read the same, after you read the central government, you need to read the state government along with it. Okay. So after reading president, what do you need to do? You should not be reading the vice president, rather you should be reading the governor. After you read the prime minister, you go and read the chief minister. After you read the central council of ministers, you go and read the state council of ministers. This is the way you have to do. Okay. But abhi when I am saying this, I'm going to be saying in a chronological manner, but when you study, Supreme Court pada, uske baad High Court. Parliament pada, uske baad state legislature. You have to compare and study everything in polity. Okay. So after you read president, go for governor. So first of all, what is important with respect to president? 2 things are important with respect to president. The powers of the president and the election of the president. Okay. In all these union executive, the oath, salary, this is something you can completely ignore. Oath, salary, you don't have to read you can read it for once, but it's not something important for all the people out there. Oath and salary, it's not very important. President ke baare mein, it's the powers of the president which is important and the election. You can see here 3 questions with respect to his election. You can see here. And I have already said this before. So probably, we don't expect a question regarding the presidential election in the coming year because our president remains the same. Right. All the 3 questions were related to current affairs. Yeah, this is something you can still read just to be on the safer side. And the second important topic is regarding the powers of the president. You can see here 4 questions were asked with respect to the powers of the president as well. Okay. This is also important. That is why I always say a comparison is required when you study. So after studying president, go for the governor. Okay. So what are the areas to focus in president? Election of the president, powers of the president, and comparison between the governor and the president is the 3 most important areas you have to focus here. And the powers mean all the powers, okay? What are the emergency powers, financial powers, legislative powers, executive powers, all the different powers out there. So election, powers, comparison. Less important areas would be qualification, oath and affirmations, term, impeachment vacancy. UPSC have never asked. Firbi, you can read this, okay? The term impeachment and vacancy, you can read it. But these are the most important areas here. Now, regarding the vice president, probably we can expect a question here because the previous vice president was literally thrown out, right? He was basically sidelined. Few days we did not have any information regarding him. We thought something must have happened to him, and he was removed. Abruptly he was removed. Then we have the new Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan. So probably we can expect a question from the Vice President this time. But with respect to Vice President as well, UPSC have never asked a question when he is the office of the regarding the Vice President. Only when he acts as the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, UPSC have asked a question. So Vice President ke baare mein UPSC have asked? No. But regarding when he acts as the chairman of Rajya Sabha, when he becomes the ex-official chairperson of the Rajya Sabha, only that UPSC have asked. But fir bhi qualifications, how he is elected, you can go through it for the fact that the new Vice President has been elected. So here, more focus on the powers of the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Only this has been asked by UPSC. So therefore, the qualifications, oath, conditions, term, vacancies, powers, vacancy in office have never been touched upon by UPSC. But fir bhi, as I said before, because the office changed, you can read. Okay? So powers of chairman, election, less important areas as always, qualifications, oath of affirmations, term, impeachment and vacancy. But this is something you can read for this year. Now moving on to the Prime Minister, the same here. Only 2 questions have come. Executive power of the Union government is vested with the Prime Minister. Even though the Prime Minister is the most important office, UPSC is not a favorite area for UPSC. Okay? Functions of the Cabinet Secretary, Prime Minister of India at the time of appointment, 9th schedule. It's better if you have a clear-cut clarity regarding the different Prime Ministers and their term. Let's say, for example, Jawaharlal Nehru was in office from 1951 to 1964. After that, succeeded by Lal Bahadur Shastri. Then came Indira Gandhi. Then came Morarji Desai. Essay, no? It's always better if you have a chronological idea regarding who was the Prime Ministers of different time and what are the important things done by him or her. Okay. It's always good to have a clear-cut idea regarding the same. If you have an idea regarding the political chronology, certain questions you will be able to counter, right? So also, in relation to the Council of Ministers also, you need to read the powers and functions of the Prime Minister. What are the less important areas? Oath, term and salary is less important. Chief Ministers who became Prime Minister, caretaker government, these are all, non-constitutional topics. So therefore, not important. You can completely skip the description given by different people out there. Ivor Jennings ne kya kaha, Munro ne kya kaha, Ramsay ne kya kaha regarding the Prime Ministers, you can completely ignore. Only regard important for the mains point of view. Now, Central Council of Ministers, the same thing. Mostly, UPSC have asked about the composition, not the powers, but how are the composition. Here, the Constitution has UPSC have asked about the classification of different ministries, Cabinet, Minister of State, Independent. It's about the composition. This is also composition. This question, it was an out-of-box question. You can completely ignore this one. This is also with respect to the powers and the relation between the Prime Minister and also the Council of Ministers. So what are the important areas? First of all, the composition of the Council of Ministers, the relation between the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, and the constitutional provisions and the responsibility, the collective responsibility of the Council of Ministers. Okay? And it's better if you have an idea between what constitutes a cabinet and what is the difference between what is the Council of Ministers and who constitutes the cabinet here. Now, cabinet committees, Parliament is the most important area out there. Okay. Close to 30 questions have been asked by UPSC in the last 15 years. That's like 2 questions in a year. Okay. So as you can see here, so for that reason, since Itnasara questions came, we have divided the portion of Parliament into 3 here. You can see Parliament procedures, the nature of bills, Parliament houses, Parliament budget, Parliament committees, and Parliament proceeding officers. Sorry, we have divided into 7 topics here because Itnasara questions came. Okay. Parliament is the most important topic with respect to Lakshmikanth. So these are the things. First of all, regarding Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, 9 questions. regarding the proceeding officers, be it the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Chairman of Rajya Sabha, 5 questions. Regarding the different sessions, monsoon, budget, winter, 2 questions. Devices, legislative procedure. This is one significant area. Money bill and financial bill. Almost, I guess after 2020, almost in every year, one single question has come. Very important. But you can see here parliamentary forum and group, not a single question has been asked for the fact that it's only available in Lakshmikanth and not in Constitution, right? So first of all, we'll deal with the chair of the houses. As you know, the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha and the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So Speaker, these are very important people here. You need to dive very deeper. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, beat all the provisions out there. There is no single area for you to skip. All the important portions are very important. Okay. And when you do the same, it's already there in the flash notes. Therefore, you don't have to make any note regarding the same. It's already there in the flash notes. You need to study in a comparative manner. Okay. Let's say, for example, Lok Sabha Speaker, State Legislative Assembly Speaker, Rajya Sabha. This is the way you have to study. Okay. You have to compare and study between the Lok Sabha Speaker and the Rajya Sabha Speaker and also the State Legislative Assembly Speaker. This is the way you have to study. What are the different qualifications of the Lok Sabha Speaker, Rajya Sabha Chair, electors, method, final majority, provisions, Paki sab kuch you need to compare and study. Okay. Next one, reading with the House of the Parliament. You have the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. You can see here, most of the questions are from the difference between the powers of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Let's say in terms of questions, you can see here, which of the following are the exclusive powers of Lok Sabha? Right. Here, you can see the Rajya Sabha has equal powers with respect to Lok Sabha. Here, the Rajya Sabha has no power with respect to money bill. The Rajya Sabha cannot vote on demands on grants. So it's mostly between the powers in comparison with the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. You can see the chairman of Deputy Rajya Sabha, the chairman and the deputy speaker of the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha, UPSC asked, which of the following special powers has been conferred on the Rajya Sabha? So powers of Rajya Sabha. Make a comparative analysis. This is the way you have to revise. Okay. So on the left hand side, you can see all the provisions of Lok Sabha. In the right hand side, all the provisions of Rajya Sabha. You don't have to make it. It's already there in the flash notes. Okay. You can just learn from the flash notes. You don't have to make your own notes. Next one, regarding the bills, money bills. You can see here, most important topic regarding UPSC, the money bill. Bill pending in Lok Sabha, bill pending in Rajya Sabha, and all the other different things. Lok Sabha transmits a bill, rejects a bill, money bill, again money bill. So money bills and financial bills. What is the difference between Article 110, 110.1 and 10.2? So financial bills, there are 2 types of financial bills, right? You need to have a clarity, clear-cut clarity regarding the same as well. So which are introduced only in the Lok Sabha, which have equal relation with any other bill. So all of you must have some kind of lack of clarity regarding the same. So this is one area you should have clear-cut clarity. Okay. The money bills and the financial bill. Okay. Private members bill, UPSC asked, bill pending in, what happens to a bill when it is pending in Rajya Sabha? What happens after the bill it transfer from Lok Sabha to Rajya Sabha? What happens when a bill get dissolved? I mean, when the parliament get dissolved? All these different issues are there, right? So you need to have a clarity. Let's say, what happens if the bill is passed and the presidential election happens? Or what happens if the bill is passed and then the dissolution takes place? For all those things, what happens to the bill? You need to have a clarity regarding the same. So, flash notes pe hai, yes sir. You need to compare and study. Let's say financial bill 1, financial bill 2. Ordinary. What happens? Lok Sabha pe chahiye, there is none. Simple majority, kya chahiye regarding ordinary bill, money bill, financial bill 1, financial bill 2, and also with respect to constitution amendment bill. So you need to refer the flash notes to get a comparative analysis. Okay. The same with regard to different bills. Now, one most important question is here. Should you detail read about what happens to the bill in each of the case? let's say first reading पे हो गया, then it gets published in the Gazette, then second reading हो गया. This is not something very significant. ठीक है. What happens to the bill on each and every stage, first reading, second reading, third reading, then the amendments, this is not something very important. The only thing here is that what happens to a bill when the dissolution or different things happen. What is the difference between a money bill and financial bill and a constitutional amendment bill and a private member's bill? Only these areas are important. Okay, not the different stages of discussion and all these areas. UPSC have, I mean, it's not there in the constitution, right? It's not there in the constitution. It's only there in the Lakshmikanth. That is the reason why UPSC have never asked a question. Okay. So parliamentary committees as well, very important. 4 questions have come in the 5 questions have come in the last 15 years. So ethics committee, especially in 2024 after the Mahua Maitra case, you need to know. Yeah. So UPSC asked about the largest committees. UPSC asked about the parliament committees. What does it do? And different things, standing committees. Now, what you need to do is, with respect to standing committees are the most important committees, right? We have 3 committees. We have 3 financial committees under standing committees, right? Public Accounts Committee, Estimates Committee, and Committee on Public Undertakings. Now, you need to dive very deeper with respect to all these financial committees. And for rest of the committees, just a very general understanding is required. Now, you must be asking, sir, then ethics committee pe UPSC have asked a 3-statement question, right? This is because a current affairs news was there. Okay. Usually, this is the manner we expect a question with respect to all the other different committees. What will UPSC ask? UPSC will provide a paragraph regarding the same and expect you to identify the committee. But only in case of financial committees, UPSC have given, I mean, in Lakshmikanth, there is detailed information regarding the same. So we expect the same for UPSC to ask a statement-based question with respect to financial committees and a paragraph-wise question with respect to all the other different committees. So dive very deeper with respect to the financial committees and all the other, just need to have a very basic information regarding the same. Okay. We don't have to dive very deeper with respect to all the other different committees. So all these things, just have a basic understanding with respect to what is this committee, what is the function of these committees. That's it. Areas to skip. All these you can completely ignore. Okay? Name the committees under Rajya Sabha. What are the committees under Rajya Sabha? What are the committees under Lok Sabha? What are the ad hoc committees constituted abhi tak? These are all areas you can completely skip, not relevant. Now, what about different motions? You can see here, adjournment motion has been asked, non-confidence motion has been asked, but there are other motions as well, right? You must understand that these are the more important areas. Let's say, for example, non-confidence motion, censure motion, 0 hour, question hour, and motion of thanks. This you need to have more focus. What about the less important areas? They are closure motion, privilege motion, calling attention motion, no day yet name motion, dilatory, point of order, and certain resolutions. These are not significant areas in which UPSC have never asked a question, but UPSC have asked question with respect to motion of thanks, 0 hour, non-confidence motion, censure motion, and question hour. So these are the areas which you need to give more importance. And this is something very confusing as well. Even if you read it multiple times, it is very hard for you to understand. So give less importance to this and more focus to this. Okay? Now, what about voting in the House? The voice vote, division, secret ballot, voting. It's not there in Constitution. Therefore, not, I would say, less important area. Language in the Parliament, not so significant. Voting in the House, not so significant. Ordinary bills, this is what I said. First reading, second reading, stage of general discussion, considerate, third reading, bill in the second House, supplementary grant, additional grant, voice of credit, exceptional grant, token grant. All these are not there in the Constitution. So do not give too much importance on this. You can read it for the first time. When you revise for the second time, you don't need to revise the same. Okay. Very less important. So parliamentary group, not there in Lakshmikanth, completely skip karo. Parliamentary forum as well, completely skip the row. Okay. So what are the important areas? Money bills and financial bills, houses of Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, parliamentary committees, chair of both the houses, motions paid, non-conference motion, and all the other different motions which we have discussed. Less important, the procedure of bills, grants, other motions, parliamentary privileges. What are the areas to skip? Parliamentary forum, parliamentary group, and youth parliament is something that you can completely skip.